they are using this in the hospitals for the treatment of chronic fatigue from long COVID. So these are stir plates that I made from computer fans.
What's going on, everyone? It's Savannah here, and today we are joined with Christine from SRQ Cordyceps, and we're going to be doing a little farm tour.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. We're really excited to check out your space, and this is the first mushroom farm that I've ever visited.
cool.
In real time, so take it away.
All right. Well, this front room is like a non-clean space. And this is where the stuff gets sterilized in these giant pressure cookers.
Is that the substrate?
Yeah, the substrate that is going to have the mushroom put onto it. It also serves as an art space because I'm also an artist, so it's kind of wacky.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. This is the front room, yeah, and this is where it's more sterile.
And sorry to
less
interrupt,
sterile.
but like you got some jars of, what do you got going on here?
Those are tinctures. So every summer I travel. These are kind of the defunct ones, but every summer I travel and wild harvest from private properties around the United States. So one summer I'll go up to Maine and spend a month traveling up. And because I'm also a certified herbalist.
No way.
Yeah, I was an organic farmer for 10 years and got herbal certification through Seven Song, shout out. Northeast School of Botanical Medicine in New York. And I just kind of merged the two naturally. Now I'm growing medicine.
No way.
So, yeah.
And so what are the tinctures in here, and are there any particular ones that you really love to go after, or it's just kind of the area
specific? So the ones that, it's area specific, and the ones that I kind of go after are the ones that I use the most, and that are the most I've seen effective, kind of wide spectrum. But those aren't here. Those are inside because I'm pressing them out and making tincture and selling it. So, yeah.
Okay, so this is the
lab.
Whoa.
So the main thing that I've been growing the past year, I just started this business, I guess like almost 2 years ago. The first year was all just figuring out how to grow the mushroom because it's very hard to get to fruit. Most of the products are just myceliated grain that's on the market because these guys are very picky. I've scaled back. This whole room was filled with them, but then I didn't have distribution because I was focusing on the science of learning how to grow them. So now I'm growing what I sell, and then I'm going to scale back up. Now that I've proven I can do it. And I'm also diversifying, like this is lion's mane, this bag. And we have turkey tail and reishi and oyster. My partner plants out fruit forests and stuff.
Oh, no way.
And so we inoculate logs that go along like borders for beds and stuff.
Oh, I love that. So then it's
Yeah,
like
we work
multi-use.
synergistically and do plant walks together for like homeschool groups and so there's a lot going on. This is my business, the Cordyceps, but I mean really the whole thing we're constantly doing all kinds of stuff. Eventually these will go in here so they can have more moisture because as you can tell it's very dry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the next stage after you cook the grain, I'm gonna come this way.
No.
This is the HEPA filter. This creates an airflow that is like 99.8% clear of anything.
Oh, so that you keep circulating like the air, I guess?
Yeah, so when you work, you have to stagger it, and you put the cleanest things in the front, dirtier here, and you always keep that in mind, because it's creating a positive pressure flow over it so that contaminants can't get in.
I was blowing it. I thought it was blowing.
No, it's a positive pressure. And so this is kind of the most labby part of the whole thing.
So this is the area where you have your sterile substrate, and then you go to inoculate it.
Yes, this is what after it's cooked. It's brown rice and a bunch of food ingredients. It's all organic. And this gets put in the pressure cooker and cooked. This is so that it can breathe and not get contaminants. And then you bring it in here and you inoculate it in front of that.
I've only ever seen like I don't know what it's called, but okay.
It comes in a syringe, and in order to extend the syringe, you make clean liquid culture. You cook it. This is a sugar base. And then you inoculate this, and it grows in here. Where it grows is... So these are stir plates that I made from computer fans. And these jars have little magnets in them that spin and create a vortex to draw in oxygen. So all the stuff floating around inside of here is the organism. It's the mycelium. This is what you will dump into those clean jars, and then the mycelium will grow in the jar. Something to consider is that these fruiting bodies are like fruit. They are the reproductive organ of the organism. The organism itself is that mycelium. All mushrooms are underground, and when they decide to reproduce, they put off mushrooms. So when you're collecting mushrooms, you're never hurting the plant or killing it in this case, a mushroom, in the same way when you pick fruit. It's like, fruitarians draw to eating fruit.
And so are cordyceps similar to other mushrooms where they release their spores in the air as well? Okay.
They do. They're ascomycetes. So instead of having gills, which is basidiomycete, which is the common mushroom that we're all used to, the Mario mushroom, you can see on this, it looks like little, it's like a Cheeto with little divots. That's where the spores come out of. And they're different than other mushrooms because, not all mushrooms they're different from, but a lot of mushrooms, you can take a piece of the tissue and then grow that mushroom, like food mushrooms and psilocybin and stuff like that.
Like a fragmentation?
Mm-hmm. You make a clone. It's an exact DNA replica. These mushrooms, and this is another difficult aspect to being a cordyceps farmer, they can't just go with asexual reproduction continuously through cloning. They do this thing called senescing, and then they require two different spores to come together in sexual reproduction, or they just won't grow mushrooms. So that's a whole thing. These are about to be harvested. They're ready, and you can tell because they have those little dots.
Like the white little guys at the top.
Kind of. Here's a better example. This one's a little bit more mature. See how fluffy it is? Yeah.
They really do look like kind of Cheetos.
Yeah, I call them Cheetos. So an intermediary phase, well, I guess next after you inoculate, just be careful of the wires, they need to stay in darkness and colonize the substrate. And it's white. These are photoactive. So once it colonizes the substrate, they get put on this shelf and they start to turn orange. And then they're on their way toward fruiting. So this is right after, maybe this is like a week after inoculation. And this is after they've been in the light since 1:31. And then this is what they start producing. These have been in the light since 1:14. They take around 2 months from inoculation to fruit. So
no way.
It's long. So the experimenting phase was difficult because it was so long.
Yeah, there is feedback, but it's so much longer.
Yeah.
You must have been so excited when everything came together and you were able to dial in the process. How long did it take for you from like, okay, I'm gonna grow cordyceps to I actually have a cordyceps mushroom? What was that time period?
There's a lot of failures. I've actually been doing this, I think, for 4 or 5 years now, but I didn't have it as a business until I thought that it might be agriculturally, like I could produce at that level. But we were growing it in our backyard in a fridge that we dumpstered that had a regulator on it to keep it at 65 degrees. It doesn't like it when it gets 68 degrees. It'll actually, there's another organism that is genetically almost identical that lives within the cordyceps that expresses itself when the conditions are wrong. And it makes the mycelium, instead of being orange, more white, and then it goes back into a soil mold phase.
Oh no.
So that's the reason agriculturally it's not super productive. The first business that we know of was started in 2018 publicly that we know of in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a really, you've got the process dialed, and a very hard mushroom to grow, and seemingly a hard business because your turnaround time is not as quick as the other mushrooms.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
And I'm currently experimenting with bags and going bigger.
Yeah.
But something I've been experiencing is, and this is not science, this is me knowing the creature.
Yeah.
I think that it doesn't like being in larger quantities because, and the jars it can't communicate, however mushrooms communicate, we're not really sure exactly. I think, like anything, when you have you don't want to create too many babies of yourself unnecessarily and waste that energy. I know other people have been successful at it, and that's where I'm doing experimentation now, is trying to find the sweet spot between this size and this giant thing that didn't colonize all the way before it started putting off mushrooms. So,
have you harvested yet from one of these bigger bags? No. So this is like the first trial.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see like the quality difference between the two, but it sounds like you can already kind of see a difference, or?
Yeah. I think that the quality will probably be the same, but the problem is, as a farmer, the input to output will be less. I know people that are very successful with it, and this is my beginning phase of this, so I've been only doing it in jars, but it's incredibly labor intensive.
With the jars, yeah.
Yeah, and I would rather not grow in plastic. I like the recyclability aspect of this, the reusability.
Yeah.
But this is incredibly time consuming, and I don't know if it's actually a profitable business, and that people want to pay the price point for it growing in the jar.
Yeah, it's one of those tricky things, because hopefully you can get that clientele that is able to pay that price point, because for us as consumers, like, this is so much more valuable than growing in plastic, and being able to have an intentional farmer like yourself is so amazing. And I really, really hope that you can succeed. I know that it's labor intensive, but in a more sustainable way. Mm-hmm. We had a friend who did a mushroom journey, and they're really fond of mushrooms in general, and had a nice moment with the mushrooms, and they were expressing how they don't like the feeling of like being in bags, and so these look so happy and healthy, and I'm sure that's a result of the care and the love that you put into the craft, but also the intention behind, the recyclability and like the frequency of the glass versus plastic in and of itself. Yeah,
that's something who somebody was in here I don't know very well, who says that they're psychic. And when she came in here and saw this, she's like, oh, the energy, they love this. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of interesting to get her feedback, her perception. She put a piece of my plant in this one to play with it. I said, yes, you can experiment with one, because she has a background in neuroscience. So
neat. Wow, that's a cool link, neuroscience and a psychic.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know her very well, and it was a spur of the moment interaction, but so this one's an experiment. That's why there's a pitcher plant in it. But
cool.
She wanted to see how it would affect it.
And so, Christine, roughly, how much would one of these jars would you ideally sell it for?
So I'm not exactly sure. This is my first business, and the thing about, like the art is a product, I can have a set price, but if it doesn't produce as much in one jar as another, it's also variable. Where the contents of the jar are, they need to be at least $15 a jar, which when you take down the, this, it goes down to around 10 to 13% of its weight when it's dried. And that's the best way because all mushrooms last around a week, fresh. So if it's 4 grams that I'm getting out of a jar, which would be like, between, I'm not good at math, 40 to 50 grams wet, then, right now my base level price is 2 people direct sale here is $2 a gram, and that's my lowest because I'm just trying to get people into it and get it out there.
Yeah.
But really, I think I should be selling it for $3 a gram, and that's pretty hefty.
It seems like very affordable.
Does it?
That's affordable. Like, think about like if you're the cost of like weed for a gram.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You're never getting $3 a gram.
No, like weed gets you high. There's a profound effect, and
For sure.
And this, people, some of my clients, if they have actual significant problems, and it's not just for athletic performance or general health and immunity, they are more than willing to pay that because it's changed their life. She has a condition in her eye where it doesn't drain, so she's legally blind in one eye and has these headaches from it. And there's one research article, not in humans yet, that talked about the effects on macular effects, and she tried it, and she has decreased from 18 points of pressure, I'm not really sure what this means, to 12 points of pressure, which is phenomenal, and she has less headaches and can see better. So that's like a game changer, Another person has long COVID, and it opens their lungs and makes them have more energy. And actually in China, they are using this in the hospitals for the treatment of chronic fatigue from long COVID. So any viral infection. And that's a game changer too, if your quality of life is crap, I can show you the dehydrated ones.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I keep them in the dark so that they don't, humidity, light, and temperature are all what cause things to, go bad quicker. So dark, cold, dry.
And from a consumer perspective, how can I get the most out of my cordyceps? Is it through finding a farmer like yourself that does, like if a client wanted raw cordyceps, is that the best way to consume them for the vitality, or is it dried, or is it tinctured? What's your opinion on that?
It kind of depends on what you're going for, and like I always say with the herbal clients that I have, it's a matter of like what you'll actually do. I think tea is probably the best way,
right?
Because it's dehydrated, the water's added, and it pulls out a lot of stuff, and then you can eat the fruiting body afterward. There's nothing lost between dehydrating and being raw. That being said, if you don't have a tea habit, you're probably not going to do it. So then the tincture would be good because it's accessible, easy, you can take it with you. You can do a combination of the two. And of course, they're delicious. If you've ever had chicken of the woods, it's a wild harvested mushroom. That's what it tastes like, and that's my favorite mushroom. So I love eating them. But anytime you take something with the intention of like a specific medicine and you take it with food, you have all these competing enzymes and stuff breaking it down. So, but just kind of having it in your body is super important too. I'm doing a lot of experimenting with people right now. One woman I sell to does jujitsu, and she didn't know you were supposed to cook it, and the bioavailability of the constituents in the mushroom is way less when it's raw. So she was just eating them raw in the dosage I said for the tea and saw profound results. She said, at first I thought maybe it's placebo, but after 2 weeks where I just, in between matches, took a few breaths, I was just back out there where normally I wouldn't have that stamina. So it helped her compete and like significantly. And then I told her, I said, you're eating them raw? You're supposed to be making a tea. And she was just like, I had no idea. So, I mean, there you go. The amount you're supposed to eat raw is around 7 grams, and the dried, according to the literature, is 1 to 3. When I had COVID and my lungs were closed, I ate 1 raw and my lungs opened up a bit. So, I mean, it's really like a matter of, I don't know, I always just say experiment and listen to your body and then go from there.
Okay, that's really helpful, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that find value in this conversation because respiratory, especially this year, so many people have been going through colds and a lot of sinus stuff, and even just having another tool in the toolbox or the medicine cabinet is really, really helpful. For us, we've had some respiratory issues. Our apartment we just left had black mold.
Oof.
And so we're beginning our detox journey, and I think Cordyceps might be a helpful ally for us.
Yes, I think so. The mushrooms all have different properties. Specifically, the cordyceps have cordycepin, and that has its own bag that comes with it. But like the lion's mane is really, I mean, they're both neuroprotective, but this has higher levels. So I like all mushrooms, but the cordyceps I got into from a personal experience and the challenge, doing them.
And why is it that cordyceps are known as the zombie fungus?
Because of media. No, so, I mean, it's inaccurate. So they grow in the wild off of insects. There's different kinds. You probably might have heard of the one that infects an ant and then manipulates it to climb to the highest point to put off spores.
No way, I haven't actually.
You haven't heard that?
No.
Yeah, because it takes over the mycelium, its nervous system. That kind of feels zombie-ish, yeah. There's all different kinds. These grow on pupa of moths and different, what are they called? Flying bugs, flutter bugs. And when it's in the soil, it takes it over in the pupa stage, and it all becomes mycelium, and then it sprouts out of the pupa. So when you make a tincture, you have the alcohol and water, and you have the the material. And then when you press it out, what's left is called the mark. This is just the leftovers. But this one I really like. This is Xanthorrhiza simplissima. It's also known as yellow root. And the reason I like it is that it's in the barberry family, and it has berberine in it. And berberine has been studied, and in my experience with people and according to studies, it's known as a natural antibiotic. It's incredibly good to knock out viruses and bacterial infections, especially throat. So I run through that stuff all the time. People love it. I can not really keep up with it. Strong antiviral, antibacterial, and currently, and before COVID, there wasn't a lot of products that were antiviral that you could take, pharmaceuticals. And now, there's a different type of product that's RNA, the spike protein manipulating. But plants, when COVID hit, plants have been doing this for a long time because we've co-evolved with them. They create these compounds to make themselves to protect themselves from viruses and bacteria. And that's what we're benefiting from in taking them. And a lot of pharmaceuticals are made from plants. What they do though is they just isolate the constituent and maybe sometimes even change it, because again, it's business. They need a patent, and to justify the money that they put, the multi-millions they put into research.
Right.
So a lot of plants haven't been studied because there's a synergistic effect in their constituents. It's not just one thing like berberine, it's all the things.
Yes.
And that is not patentable. So that's a problem for big money, for, commerce, consumerism. This is just the liquid. So there's not much to see here. But this is called Peticularis canadensis. And that is a skeletal muscle relaxant. And what's great about that as a skeletal muscle relaxant is that it's not sedative. Like skullcap and kava and these other things are relaxants, but they're sedative. They have an effect in that way. And yeah, this has been really effective with people with chronic back pain, different things that have to do with their skeletal system. So skeletal muscles, like all the stuff that connects you, that allows you to walk, and smooth muscles more like your uterus, your intestines, like those muscles. There's also a really good smooth muscle relaxant, Dioscorea villosa. This is the mark from that. It's a root. This has been amazing. It's really good for PMS, like period cramping, or I personally am allergic to cow and I didn't know it for years, so I suffered from like horrible cramping when I would eat it. And this I keep in a tincture when I travel with me, just to mitigate all the pain, because it stops the contractions of the smooth muscle in my intestines. So that plant I'm very in love with on a personal level. And then there's, I'll just talk about it, I don't know where it is. There's a plant called ghost pipe, and ghost pipe is super cool. It doesn't have chlorophyll and it's white, and it's single thing with a flower, and it has a symbiotic or possibly parasitic, it's unknown, relationship with a mushroom that has a relationship with the tree. So it's pretty rare. And that one's pretty profound. I have successfully pulled people out of bad trips with that, just a few drops. Almost, I'm not going to say it's an antipsychotic, because that's a name for drugs, and I don't really know what is acting in it, but I've heard people use it for that, so I've used it for that when I've gotten calls of problems, and it is very effective. It's also a strong nervine. My partner had a bad toothache and was in a bumpy van and was losing his mind from the pain, and he took a little bit of that, and it just took the edge off where he didn't feel like he was going to freak out. So that's cool. But also just ghost pipe, Monotropa uniflora, look it up. It's super wild looking. It's like white and clear, and it doesn't even have leaves. It has little bracts, and sometimes it's neon pink and neon blue.
Whoa. It's
pretty goth looking. If you drink and you get drunk, the next day maybe you feel even like emotionally shaky and weird.
Nervous.
B vitamins. That's because you're B vitamin deficient. Like a severe B vitamin deficiency actually looks like schizophrenia.
Interesting.
So.
And so you were just saying that similar to tinctures, when you drink alcohol, you're tincturing yourself?
Yeah, so tinctures work the alcohol by pulling out the nutrients in the plant and pulling it into the alcohol. Well, if you're drinking alcohol, you're pulling out your minerals and vitamins in your body and peeing it out in higher numbers than it would normally be peeing out. So you're extracting yourself, but it's from old farming catalogs, and then I spray paint.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's kind of goth, I call it farm noir. Yeah, and I've been selling gift cards too, because I don't know, I really like doing art, but I also really like doing mushrooms, so I'm not going to compromise. I have like probably 150 different ones, because I've been
Different?
Yeah, because I've been making this art for like 7 years. Once a week, I have an art day that I force myself to do.
Where do you sell them?
Oh, I don't know. They're going to be on my website.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. Only specific people would understand these, though. This is the challenge.
What's weird is that I sold more of these cards. I sold $400 with this thing called the Atomic Bazaar. It's like a Maker's Fest that's indie. Than I did Cordyceps things. One of my favorites. This one I sold to a comedy
That one's cool.
writer.
Wow.
It's a little person in the moon at night.
You love tiny things.
I do.
How did you even cut that out?
So this is how I sell them to locals. I like to keep things in glass. This is 14 grams. I generally sell it in a container of 30 grams, and it comes with an information packet, dosages, and then it also talks about how to research, because something I find with my herbal clients is that people aren't taught the specific buzz keywords when they're researching to really get good information. It's just kind of vagina's kind of